most of you are probably really familiar with Dearly Beloved from the Kingdom Hearts series, from the Kingdom Hearts franchise, because there's been 30,000 different renditions of this for every single game that has been made in this franchise. But this particular one is very, very special to me still. And I really like listening to this constantly. And I've spent way too much time listening to this theme over and over again. And specifically 3 renditions of this theme. But what really came down to me wanting to really deep dive into Dearly Beloved was because of a lot of what we've been covering on this channel. At least when I hear this, a lot of what I think about is the old, PS1, PS2 days when I was a child, and just listening to this theme go over and over. I had just gotten Kingdom Hearts. It's like, ooh, funny Disney / Square Enix thing. There's Disney characters in this. There's Goofy and Donald. This seems fun. My child self did not know what I was going to go through from this. But while listening through Epic, I was reminded a lot of the Kingdom Hearts game series. Especially with that recent release of the Thunder Saga and going as deep as we did. There was a lot of parts of there that just reminded me of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. Specifically this piece. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but there's one particular piano riff in the Thunder Saga that really brought me back to this particular theme. And this is a recurring theme that has kept going along in the Kingdom Hearts franchise for years now. It started all the way up with this beautiful rendition that we just listened to, but it has continued to grow, evolve, adapt, just along with us. Those who started with this game or might have just started their journey recently thanks to it being released on Steam have started their game by just listening to this theme. It's a beautiful melody that really helps to represent a lot of this franchise. But I particularly want to look at 3 variations of this theme. And that's the ones that happen with the main number games, Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and 3. The evolution of this theme going forward really correlates with the journey that is always coming up ahead within the game. It may also reminisce about the people who may not be within the game franchise anymore, or who might need a reunion. Just kind of give glimpses and small looks into what might be happening as we go forward within the particular game. Honestly, these 3 Dearly Beloved versions that we're going to look in today are a very good example of a very common storytelling trope that Kingdom Hearts and literally everything follows when it's a good versus evil thing, which is known as the hero's journey. It's amazing how just a 1 to 2 minute clip of something that is looped that most players would probably only spend a little bit of time on can end up telling such a broad story. What we just listened to the intro to this video was the Dearly Beloved from Kingdom Hearts 1. I pulled this collection thanks to Clem, who gave literally all the Kingdom Hearts intros and endings up until here. So it's been really cool to see a lot of that and kind of re-listen to it, because a lot of these themes really do kind of tell the story. But I'm going to play and talk a little bit of at least the first one so we can really start deep diving into this. So when it comes to the first Dearly Beloved that I just played, you notice that it is very simple. If you listen closely, you're only going to hear maybe 3 instruments max. You hear a choir, and you also hear just the melody that is introducing this theme. You have these choirs, and it's a very simple, soothing melody, something that is reminiscent of maybe a childhood. It's very bittersweet. but calming and soothing at the same time. The actual introduction theme, or screen, I should say, of this is just Sora with a stick standing on a beach while you hear waves going on in the background. So it's very calming. It's very, this is going to be something brand new that we might end up going through here. This is a new franchise for a lot of us that just started to get into this style. I mean, whoever thought that thanks to a weird meeting between a Square Enix representative and a Disney representative in an elevator would bring this kind of huge, I guess, I don't know if multiverse is the correct way to put it, but like mishmash of things together. And then we get this on top of it. But just like the intro to this, it's a brand new start. We're full of aspirations. We want things to really kind of push forward. It is a brand new adventure. It's new. Maybe it was just us on our own. And typically, you only have the piano and the Oz in the background. And we're just ready to take that new step into there. It's a new beginning. That's why it's so basic. The instrumentation is so simple and calming. The main piano motif that we hear, and let me play that again so you can all hear it, because it's very noticeable. Just listen to it closely. You hear this bum ba-dum 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 ba-dum, which I know 30,000 people know this theme from everywhere, but it's more of like, it doesn't go like straight up and down in a melodic scale as we're used to. It likes to use a lot of intervals and jump and skip, just like how a new journey normally kind of starts with us. It's not always going to be easy going from point A to point B. There's always going to be hops and jumps and skips to go through. But for the most part, Sora is alone for this journey until he ends up meeting Donald and Goofy and a bunch of the friends as he travels through the Disney worlds. The Oz, I feel, in the background represent these people that join Sora on his journey as he goes forward. They are there and very prominent with the Oz that you hear in the background. That kind of help to support the main piano line by giving whatever the chord progression for this is. So we hear the Oz very well. But I believe those are just mainly, the Oz, maybe Donald and Goofy, whoever helps to support Sora on this way. But this is a very, very basic setup for a story. Kingdom Hearts 1 was a very easy story to follow. All it legitimately was just a boy trying to find his two friends that he got separated from. Yes, you had to deal with the darkness. Yes, you had to deal with the heartless and everything in the process, but it was a simple good versus evil story. The good guys were Sora and the gang, the bad guys are the Disney villains, and then eventually Ansem, who ended up releasing the heartless onto the world, and blah blah blah. You've heard this story 30,000 times, but it's basic, it's simple. It's a normal kind of story of a hero who starts out with nothing and goes to save the worlds by opening up Kingdom Hearts and stuff. It's just, and this theme itself is very very easy to represent that because of how basically orchestrated it is. You don't need a lot to give somebody an emotion, and just having a piano and Oz in the background is the perfect way to do that. It is a base story. Good versus evil, all of that stuff. We need to understand what's happening. Sora saves the day with our friends, which are Oz in the background. Well, we had a lot of jumps and skips on our journey to get there. Sure, a lot of self-sacrifice and stuff may have happened, which would make the story more convoluted as time goes on. But we get the kind of basic gist of the hero's journey. You start out, you make some friends, you have a fallout somewhere, you get with your friends back together again, but the power of friendship goes and helps defeat. It's a sense of discovery, and the basics of how this is orchestrated and the basic simplicity of it help to kind of back up that particular theory. Until we get into the other games, and then it gets more complicated. Chain of Memories came out after this, which what everyone at the time thought, oh, they're just going to do spin-off games. This is super popular. There's not going to be anything lore based in these games, right? 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 You didn't skip Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, did you all? I know I kind of did when I was a kid, and that's when things get a little bit more complicated. Because, oh boy, once we start getting into that kind of thing, into, secret organizations, nobodies, stuff like that, it gets a little trickier, which is when we get into Kingdom Hearts 2. That took about 30 seconds for us to get into that main theme, by the way. Which confuses us because they're like, oh, we want to hear our main Dearly Beloved again, but we're not going to play it immediately the way that goes in. But what are these other instruments I'm hearing? Is there other instruments involved? There's no Oz. That's kind of weird. We have counter melodies done from, it sounds like a clarinet. Huh, that's bizarre. But what's this very prominent oboe line that we hear there that seems to be kind of playing around with the melody of Dearly Beloved, but the piano is still clearly giving that main motif still. But this oboe is very prominent with things. And now it's being backed up by a horn section that seems to be making the oboe and the piano kind of contrast each other with how their themes go together. Huh, I wonder if this is tying any correlation to anything. But then all of the instruments just seem to join together in the end with this new built-up melody that seems to take more prominence than the piano motif and goes right into kind of the forward stream, almost like everything coming together. Because we just keep playing around with this new ba-da-dum, bum, ba-da. Why is that such a much more prominent melody than our bum, 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 bum? What are we doing with the orchestration of this? And notice how much longer this is in the original one, but it does kind of loop back a little bit. And we kind of have this loop kind of going constantly of still this same process. You can tell that the piano's the more prominent thing until you have the other instrumentations come in, and they seem to kind of take over the melody line and introduce this new melodic motif that really has not been heard up until this point from here, which is a really cool kind of way to sneak in, I don't know, maybe like a nobody or something. I don't know if my editor is seeing, hey, Sora on the left. Maybe Sora's nobody on the right? Is the introduction showing their conflict with each other? Or maybe how the somebodies and nobodies go? So many dives to the hearts when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, but this is a much longer introduction loop, just because of how long this new counter melody motive is coming in. But it gets so luscious and beautiful as, Sora's and Roxas' heart eventually comes together near the end there. But oh god, this just kind of explains the overall gist of the plot to Kingdom Hearts 2. And we'll break it up a little bit more in a second once the entirety of the piece is done playing. But there's a lot of stuff that we can talk about when it comes to how insane that this orchestration is. Because it's definitely a lot more heavily orchestrated than the Kingdom Hearts 1 version. We can 100% hear that. But there is a lot of reasons for that, and how it helps to show the hero's journey and how 2 goes. I'm gonna let it play out for the last 5 seconds. Or last 10 seconds, I should say. Or however many seconds it might be. It's still pretty. It's still pretty. And that's the important thing. Alright, so to kind of explain all of this, let's start at the beginning. So, there is an entire introduction that we have happening here. And I'm going to take a second to like replay that a little bit for you all so you can hear it. But there's an entire introduction that is played at the beginning of here that takes about 30 seconds. Okay, maybe like 20 seconds. 20 seconds? No, it's about 34 to... Yeah, it's about 30 seconds. So, the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2, we know, was a prologue. We have this lovely, lush new introduction with a lot of new instrumentation that's put into there. Obviously, you still have your strings in the background, but you have this clarinet and oboe line and string line and horn line all going in to kind of tease the original motif that was introduced in Kingdom Hearts 1. But just like the game of Kingdom Hearts 2, there is a very long introduction to introduce the new concepts of what this melody line, or the game in this case, is going to be. With that very long kind of introduction, you have a very long prologue that happens with Roxas, so we all get familiar with him with his last 7 days of summer break before Sora reawakens and everything else. And I think having that like 20 to 30 second introduction from there is a nice way to show, hey, we're introducing a new major character to this plot that's only going to be prevalent from now and then disappear for a very long time from there. So the choir had been replaced with a string section instead, just to kind of go from there. It's higher quality, obviously. This is, I think, like 2 or 3 years later since Kingdom Hearts came 1, so they have better orchestrations and stuff from there. But really listening through this theme, you hear that there's a lot of... that we saw piano still being the main prevalent thing. Sora's waking up after being asleep for some odd reason. Of course, if you played Chain of Memories, you would know why he was asleep, because of the whole thing of Naminé erasing the memories and having to restore them, but then we won't remember Naminé, and then it just gets more complicated from there, because then we end up having to kill these 5 organization members who really wouldn't come in until this thing. But surprise, one of them actually was the one who ended up betraying the others. That way they can end up doing it, and it gets... Did I already confuse all of you? Kingdom Hearts got a little complicated once Chain of Memories came, as they kept adding things and adding things and adding things, and I could go on for hours about how things have worked from there, but that's just the way how it goes. It is a lot of jarble, but people who follow the franchise, including myself, know a lot about it, which is why I've been streaming it constantly over... We're actually on the 3 now, which is really exciting and cool for there. But anyways, we just have Sora waking up, so we just have the strings and Sora himself there. I believe that each, especially with this one, each of the instruments might start representing main characters and stuff, with the piano, of course, being Sora. You have the string section still being, since the choirs aren't there anymore, we have the string section, which is still Donald and Goofy and whatever friends Sora makes along the ways, who are just always under him supporting, which is cool. But we start hearing slightly other things come forward, like this random clarinet line that seems to be peeking through here. The journey becomes a little bit more complicated with 2, especially when it comes to aspects of the heart and everything. But it's this oboe line that I really think represents Roxas trying to break through from here, because at the point when Roxas starts the game off in the prologue, but by the time we get to the point where most of the organization members who we're introducing always kind of refer to Roxas at one point or another while Sora is going around. Oh, you remind me of him. Oh, he used to look at me that way. Oh, I hated it when he smiled like that. What is with all of you people and smiling? That's a whole nother thing with Luciu, which is a whole nother... We're not going to get into that right now. But you have these like clues and indications that Sora is reminded so much of Roxas. I mean, it's a nobody. It makes sense from there. But having the oboe line kind of sneak into there, I think is a good way to represent that Roxas is still kind of there. He's adding his own voice and element into the music itself, because that oboe is very prevalent. Roxas is a major part of the story here. And as the time goes on, you notice that there's others who are starting to support that. Roxas has his whole friend group too at that point. We're introduced to Naminé. We're introduced to Axel. We're introduced to Hayner Pence Oled, at least with the data version of Roxas. But I think those are represented by the horns. So you have this contrasting thing of the strings and the piano being kind of more in the background, while the horns and the oboe take the foreground to try to make this more beautiful counter melody to conflict the original dun dun motive thing that you hear there, because you hear this nice new beautiful line that goes, and it gets a little bit stronger the closer to the conflict that happens between Sora and Roxas, because there's this massive dive to the heart near the end of the game that helps to bring Sora and Roxas's heart together. And it gets more, and I think the theme there of here gives it more heavy texture and more instruments coming in to represent, here's that main conflict, that main theme is trying to sneak in to take over the piano, until you hear it at its max volume where both things finally join together. When it gets a little bit quieter, it might have already passed by that point, but the major thing is there's so much of this new melody that is prevalent within there that is a direct kind of conflict with the main piano and strings that we hear. But as time passes on, that oboe line starts to merge with the rest of the theme, and it helps to give the sense of Sora and Roxas coming together as one within that epic, amazing fight that happened. But it shows really with the music. This is all a teaser for the things that are going up. Kingdom Hearts 2 has a lot of themes about reunions that it goes along with there. So it makes sense that sometimes when you meet a new person or get reunited with somebody that you might not always see eye to eye, but true friendship, which is a lot of what 1 was about, can come together to kind of get this clashing thing sound into a much more beautiful, lush melody line. As soon as the strings come in here, that's, I feel, them merging together, or Roxas accepting Sora, which then they have the power to stop the major threat of the organization in this game and kind of go forward. And they're going to conflict with each other until the very end. It's just what always happens. But at the very end, when everyone comes together, we all become stronger. The power of friendship is such a huge overlaying theme that has to do with Kingdom Hearts that the music tries to represent that. But it's insane that about 2 or 3 minutes worth of music can end up telling us the entire story, or at least going through the major points of the story, by just using a different way to represent the dearly beloved theme. And I think that's one of the major reasons why I absolutely love what Dearly Beloved's able to do with this. The composers are phenomenal. But then many years pass. Many years pass before we finally get into 3. We get a lot of games in the process. We get 358 over 2 days, which has to do with Roxas and what we call the Twilight Town Trio. We have Recoded, which has to do with the data version of Sora and go into weird data things, which majority of it was retcon besides like 1 or 2 things that were added into a cutscene compilation. Then we have Birth by Sleep, which is like a prequel that introduced what we call the I think it's called the Daybreak Trio. What were they called? I don't remember. Daybreak Trio? I don't... Either way, Ventus, Terra, and Aqua, we go through their story and get introduced to Xehanort and all through that. And we have so many more journeys that go through. And then we go through Birth by Sleep. We go through the post stories from there. Then we go through Dream Drop Distance, which brings Sora and Riku back in. There are so many things that happen. It's like a 20-year wait before we finally get into where, oh, wait, no, that's not it. Then there's a mobile game that gives us even more lore drops. But wait, no, that mobile game was only Japan exclusive. So us here in the Western regions didn't know what the hell was going on for all of that until back cover came out. But no, back cover is actually a sequel of Key, because the events that happened to the Keyblade War would end up going forward, and then it just keeps going on and on and on, and new characters can live and new characters die. Oh, but this is all part of there. And then we have Union Key, which is just another remake of there, and it just goes crazier and crazier, and nobody knows what's going on anymore because there's so many characters. Well, how far in the past are we? Whatever happened? Why is Aqua stuck in the realm of darkness? Why is Ventus's heart sealed up? Where is the Chamber of Awakening? What is this thing that we talk about that we don't understand? And this is why this lore is so complicated, but we all love it so much, and it drives us crazy. And okay, hold on. I think I'm okay. Kingdom Hearts lore is complicated, but the music's always beautiful. After many years of waiting, though, and after all these new storylines that plot forward, we finally come into Kingdom Hearts 3. And wow, does Dearly Beloved go nuts when it comes to Kingdom Hearts 3. And when I say it goes nuts, it goes absolutely nuts. This Dearly Beloved is the most complex out of all of them, and I think that's really a nice correlation to how complex the series has come to the point by the time 3 has come. We even start with this beautiful introduction with just piano and strings, just like 2 was, that doesn't even really toy with the main theme until it eventually just pops into there with the piano reintroducing how that theme goes constantly. But it took even longer to get to there because of how long of a journey it's been. It's been, I think, 17 years since Kingdom Hearts 2 was released, before 3 came out, with a lot of spin-off games giving us all this lore and craziness happening. So we need to end up orchestrating this to be very grand. This is the resolution of everything. This is the major part that we want to finish with the story. So we need a full orchestration there. We need this new melody introduced in 2, just upped to the 10,000th, with so much more thicker and thinner texture to show how crazy of a journey 3 would be. Even though 3 was very fan servicey in order to help tie in all of the plots that had been built up since the original game came through, the orchestration of this really does kind of show, again, a lot of how this piece was going to go, because there is so much going to it, and we have quite a bit to discuss about 3 as well. So as I said before, with the way that this works, we have a very, very, very long introduction of just piano and strings. It is beautiful, though, listening to it. It is absolutely beautiful. It is a very unfamiliar melody to us. I mean, we haven't seen a mainline Sora in a very long time, but he still has his friends backing him up, which goes to that string line. We're finally back home, except introducing even more characters and even more plot lines to go along with there. It's great to see the old gang back together again. We've had so many grand adventures, or at least everybody but Sora has had so many grand adventures, as we had way too many others being the main focus. But when we finally get back into the familiar melody, we have the piano introducing it. But the cool thing about what this one does is the piano is not the main instrument for here. The piano is a supportive instrument that introduces the motive until the strings take over for there, until other instruments start to continue. We have that oboe line of Roxas coming back in. We have this very lush string line, and these flutes coming in, which I believe all of these other introductions to the line, the flute line, the oboe line, the strings being so prevalent in there, represent the other hearts that are within Sora's heart right now. Up until this point, we know that Roxas, Ventus, and Xion are all technically part of Sora's heart, and a lot of this is trying to figure out how to get them out to get through here, which is why you have so many other voices going on there. You have 7 lights that now have to be restored to their former glory so they can go and defeat the 13 darknesses. So we play around with a lot of this theme being passed around by all the different instruments of the orchestra. The strings get it at one time. The oboe passes on to the rest of the woodwinds. You have the brass lines that we heard in Kingdom Hearts 2 come out and pass that over. It's just constantly. But the one thing that doesn't really get that theme a lot anymore after it's introduced is the piano line. Instead, listening closely, once you really hear the other instruments, you notice the piano starts going into more of a virtuoso type instrument, playing more arpeggios and kind of going up and down, like the introduction of Final Fantasy normally goes in there, and is more of a way to just the piano wandering off. The story, yes, is about Sora giving part of himself to get everybody back to where they were, to save the world, and with the piano really just starting to branch off everywhere, it eventually foreshadows the ultimate sacrifice Sora goes through to save everyone he loves and to save the world. And they do that so well with the orchestration of trying to tease that idea of how grand it is. But the piano is just there to show off. Sora is showing off everything he has learned through here. He is saving people left and right. And eventually, once we get to the end there, it's just the piano alone, because that's how the story ends. With Sora just disappearing out of everyone's lives after saving the one that he truly cared for a lot. I remember when I first heard this theme how tearful it made me look. Tearful it was. I spent so much time on the main menu just listening to this theme, to the resolution of the actual story from here, that I cried when it first came out. Yeah, a lot of it was because of nostalgia. I mean, my gosh, there had not been a new... We've been waiting for 3 for years. It had been teased, it had been delayed, it had been put into a different engine. So much had just delayed it from coming out that when it finally did hit, we all just wanted to hear that Dearly Beloved, and they surprised us with this beautiful orchestrated thing that was going to show Sora's journey of giving his power to everybody else and then disappearing into the abyss at that point, pretty much. But this is obviously just all rambling. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I've already noticed that I've been rambling too long about 3 pieces of music that all go off of one theme. But I think that's the joy of a lot of what this music has been able to do. It just helps to tell the hero's journey. You start out with such basic instrumentation of a piano and strings going to kind of the introduction from here, and then boom, by the end of there, you have the piano being the last thing disappearing in 3, which represents Sora disappearing. It really does show the buildup of how the whole franchise have gone with the main themes, with the main theme of Dearly Beloved and what these characters go through. It's such a cool way to kind of analyze music as to how it tells a story. Music does that for a lot of us. But what even made me think about Dearly Beloved? It's very nostalgic. I love Kingdom Hearts, but because of all of this epic stuff coming out, there's one particular thing in the Thunder Saga that this reminded me of, and I want you all to listen to it very closely, just to see if you can figure out that one part. And it was in Thunderbringer that reminded me so much of Dearly Beloved, eventually, after listening to it 30,000 times, and made me want to talk about Dearly Beloved, and why I realized I liked Epic even more. Listen to the end of Thunderbringer. I'm sure you've all heard it, but you're going to hear it again. Sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it? But that's a discussion for another time. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for hearing me ramble on about Dearly Beloved for as long as I did. If you enjoy this type of content, by all means, like, subscribe, give me some feedback about what you thought about this. I know all of us have wonderful things about music that we all really enjoy and remind us of, but we have a lot more to discuss. Until the next video, I'll see y'all later. Bye, guys!